So today we're going to be looking at forecasting of your paid ads strategy as part of your campaign. I'm going to call it kind of CPA forecasting, but it's both CPA forecasting as well as ROAS forecasting. CPA, which stands for cost per acquisition, same as cost per conversion, that's generally our kind of target KPI for things that don't generate revenue specifically, like lead gen campaigns or things like that. And then if you're actually generating sales and revenue, your most important kind of metric to look at is ROAS, because that's revenue as a proportion of cost. So if we're going to be doing this, we need to decide which channels we're going to be using. So I'm using search, display network, Facebook, and LinkedIn. At the moment, I've left everything blank apart from my kind of column headers. So first thing we need to do is decide a budget. Now I'm just going to be picking numbers out of the air here. You can use whatever budget you like, but I'm going to be looking at $300 for each channel, initially at least. So once I've figured out what my budget is, I need to figure out what the actual cost per click is going to be. So for search and GDN, I can use the keyword planner as well as the kind of display planner that's in when you make a new campaign, a display campaign. For Facebook and LinkedIn, I'm going to use some industry benchmarks. So first thing I'm going to do is my search CPC. So luckily I've made some super basic keywords and I've decided I'm going to advertise ski lessons for Cypress Mountain. So your forecasting will no doubt have many more keywords than this because you're going to be building an actual AdWords account. This is kind of just an example to show you how it's done. So just copy these keywords and I'm going to go to Keyword Planner and I'm going to select that I want to get search volume and forecasts. So then I can just paste my keywords and get started. So I'm targeting just British Columbia here. If you want to change this location, you can just click into it and edit that. I'm just going to do British Columbia because I'm advertising Cypress Mountain ski lessons. I don't think that's going to be relevant to anyone outside of BC. Now you can see, luckily it's kind of already giving me the right amount of costs, almost. On this left-hand side, it says we can get this many clicks. If you click into that, you can get conversions as well. The reason I'm not using conversions is because the conversions is based on the conversion rate of this current AdWords account. And this is a different AdWords account with like different keywords, different landing page, everything to the one that I'm forecasting. So I can forecast clicks quite effectively, but the conversions are going to be more based on my client's Google Analytics rather than the conversions on this. Now what I really want to do is I want to see a nice graph so I can kind of choose what I should set my CPC to. If I wanted to spend $1,000 of the client's budget, I could just go until I find that and I could see that I'm spending 70 cents, max CPC of 70 cents to be able to spend $1,000 per month. This is the time period we're looking at in the top right. However, for this forecast at the moment, I want to be spending $300. So I'm just going to find where that is, somewhere down here. It's at $2.90. So ordinarily, I would click into this bit and I would just push it up 1 cent, but then push it to $3.10. So it's kind of all the same. So I can't actually make it exactly $300. That's fine. So I know that I'm going to set my max CPC at 25 cents to be able to spend the budget. But that's not going to be my actual CPC. So if I just scroll along to the right here, my actual CPC is my average CPC, and that's going to be 17 cents. So I'm going to use that for my spreadsheet. 17 cents. Okay. So that's my search CPC forecast. Next, I need to forecast display. So for display, I've started building a new campaign. And I'm not going to be targeting Canada. I'm just targeting British Columbia and in English. And I've set my maximum budget at $10 because obviously that adds up to $30 a month. And I've also, down here, I've set my ad group bid at 75 cents. Now it's really important to set this ad group bid because see over here it says your selected bid is 75 cents. If you don't have a bid there, you don't get any forecast. So at the moment it's looking like if I just target all of BC, it's between 20 cents and 54 cents. But I don't want to just target all of BC. I want to target skiers for obvious reasons, which is going to put the price up a bit. I also want to target snowboarders. Unfortunately, that's not actually a category that I can target, but I can target winter sports enthusiasts. So I might add them, which seems to have made it a bit more expensive again. So that's my kind of target demographic that I want to be targeting for this kind of campaign at least. Now, if you're doing this for your client, you might be targeting a few different audiences, in which case you can kind of forecast each audience separately. But for this audience, it's looking like it's going to be between 30 cents and 70 cents, which works out at pretty much bang on 50 cents, or I think in this example, let's say 49 cents. So this is actually quite unusual that my search ads are going to be cheaper than my display ads, which makes me kind of wonder why the search ads are being so cheap. I think it's partially a result of everything coming through Cypress Mountain, which seems to have a very cheap cost per click compared to everything else. So it also has a lot of volume, so it's not necessarily wrong. It just means that bidding on the Cypress Mountain keyword is going to be very effective for this client. Okay, so that's my search and my display. To target my cost per click for Facebook and LinkedIn, I'm going to be using some industry benchmarks. So if I just search for Facebook ads benchmarks, let's see what I can find. These WordStream blogs tend to be really, really effective. And they kind of break out your CPCs by different industry, which is quite useful. So I don't need to worry about click-through rate, but if I come down a bit further, we got cost per click. Now, we don't really have anything relating to skiing necessarily here, but travel and hospitality is probably not a bad one to look at. So I think I'm going to be using the travel and hospitality one, which is 63 cents. So just going to pop that in here. And then I'm wondering about LinkedIn. So let's just search for LinkedIn CPC benchmarks. I've actually looked at these top two. I'm not huge fans of them, but this this HubSpot article is pretty decent. So if I click into that, it's that kind of HubSpot study that they've learned lots of things after lots of years with LinkedIn. This looks like a classic stock photo of an uppy-righty graph that clients are very happy with. So if I just scroll down a bit, it's saying this is your classic AdWords CPC and AdWords average conversion rate, and this is the average LinkedIn one. So I'm just going to steal these numbers as an example. So might not format it like that though. So 574. Just gonna undo all this because it's annoying me with the formatting. Okay, lovely. So that's all my cost per clicks forecast. LinkedIn's looking incredibly expensive, which it is. So we'll see how this goes. But once we've got the budget and I've got my cost per click, then I can calculate the number of clicks, because if I know my budget is $300 and my cost per click is 17 cents, then the number of clicks is literally going to be my total budget divided by the cost per click. And I can just drag that formula down. I don't really like all these decimal places, so I can just, if my Excel doesn't break, I can just take them away like that. Okay, lovely. Next we've got the conversion rate. Now, what I'd usually do with the conversion rate is I'd look at my clients' Google Analytics, or I'd ask them if they knew what the conversion rate was, and I would take the number from there. So I'm going to assume for this example that the conversion rate is 4% on their Google Analytics, and to be honest, search ads tend to perform with a very similar conversion rate to the overall website conversion rate on GA. So that's fine for search. The display network, on the other hand, tends to have a much poorer conversion rate. And I'm going to try and find out what the benchmarks for those are. Got another WordStream one, because what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to look at what the benchmark is, and I'm going to try and make it roughly that proportion for my search and display. Because I know that my search one actually is 4%, or is going to be 4%, because that's what the website is. I just want to see what the kind of average proportion is between search and display, so that I can kind of trend it that way. So just trying to find the conversion rate here. Okay, so we're in travel and hospitality. So the average search conversion rate in travel seems to be 3.5%, whereas the average display one is about 0.5%. So that is 1/7. Basically this is a little bit less than my search conversion rate. So I need to make this, my conversion rate is slightly more than this. So I'll just make my display conversion rate slightly more than this as well. So 3.5 up to 4 is a little bit. So maybe from 0.5, I'll take it up to 0.6. So my display conversion rate is going to be about 0.6%, which is quite low. Display does tend to have a much lower conversion rate because people aren't actively searching for your product. They're more just being shown it while they're trying to do something else. So what about Facebook? I think I already had my Facebook. Get a lot of pop-ups on these websites. So I need to find my Facebook conversion rate. So we're looking at travel. So that's 2.8%. I'm going to take that. And my LinkedIn conversion rate, I think I already had the HubSpot one. LinkedIn conversion rate, 6.1%. So I've got my conversion rates there. So if I've got my conversion rate and I've got my number of clicks, then I can easily calculate the actual conversions, because it's just going to be the clicks multiplied by the conversion rate. And I'm just going to drag that formula down. And again, I want to get rid of all these decimal places. Maybe we can have one. Okay, so if I've got my number of conversions and I've got my cost, then I can really calculate cost per conversion, CPA, because that is simply cost divided by conversions. Simple as that. So I can drag that down. At the moment I'm seeing search is ridiculously cheap while everything else is quite expensive. So if it was just a lead generation client, I'd probably stop at CPA, because there is no average order value or revenue. For Cyprus, because we're going to be selling ski lessons, they've told me that the average order value is $85. So I can assume that the average order value is still going to be somewhat similar for all the different channels. I'd say in real life we'll find that that's not totally the case, but when we're forecasting, that's about as accurate as we need to be. So if I've got my average order value and I've got my number of conversions, then I can just multiply those together, because the number of conversions times the average order value is the total revenue. So that's going to give us our revenue. And once we've got our total revenue, we can calculate our ROAS, because ROAS is just the revenue divided by the cost. So this Google Ads one, or the search one, is being incredibly cheap. Everything else, not so much. So ROAS can either be displayed just as numbers, or it can be displayed as a percentage. It kind of depends what your client prefers. I usually do it just as numbers. So what this means essentially is that search is going to generate $20 for every $1 that we spend. Facebook's going to be able to generate $4, whereas display and LinkedIn not going to be working so well for this client. So those are all my forecasts with individual channels. But the thing is, I'm building a whole strategy here. So I don't want to know the individual channels. I want to know the total ROAS of the whole strategy. So for that reason, I've got this total row at the bottom. So to calculate the totals, I need to add the things up. So I'm going to use the sum formula, and I can just select things that I want to add up, which is everything above it, and that's my total cost. Now, I'm not going to use the sum for things like cost per click or conversion rate, because if I add these up, it won't make any sense. I'm going to have to calculate those from the totals. So there's some things that do make sense if I add them all up. So clicks, for instance, conversions, revenue, if I add those up, that'll be the total clicks and the total revenue, etc. So I can actually just copy this cell because it has the formula in it, and I can just paste it at the bottom of the things where I want to add them up. So clicks and conversions and revenue are all things that if I add them up will make total sense. Things like cost per click and conversion rate and cost per acquisition, I'm going to need to calculate. So to calculate my cost per click, that's going to be my total cost divided by my total clicks. To calculate my total conversion rate, that's going to be my total conversions divided by my total clicks. I'm just going to display that as a percentage. Total CPA is going to be my total cost divided by my total conversions. I'm going to display that with dollars as well. Average order value, we're assuming still going to be $85, so that's fine. And then my total ROAS is going to be my total revenue divided by my total cost. So there I can see that my total ROAS for the entire kind of strategy is 6.4. However, also at this point, it's become abundantly clear that search is going to be very effective for this client, mainly because we can get such cheap clicks for the Cypress branded keyword. So in this instance, maybe I'm going to want to try and spend a bit more there because that seems pretty sweet. So also I can see that LinkedIn not really going to be that effective here. So maybe I'm going to reduce my spend to $100 on LinkedIn and $500 on search. Now if I'm changing my budget on search to $500, maybe I need to go back to Google Ads and the keyword planner, and I need to change that slightly to see what's going to be my CPC if I want to spend $500. So I can just set that up here. And now I'm at $500. My average CPC is actually going to be slightly higher at 21 cents, but still definitely going to be worthwhile, I think. So I'm going to adjust that to 21 cents. It makes the ROAS not as good because I think the ROAS was 20 before, which was incredibly high, but it's still very high compared to everything else. And that means that because we've spent more on search, which has a high ROAS, and less on LinkedIn, which had a lower ROAS, we've brought the total ROAS up to 8 rather than the original 6 point something. Now, I can also see that GDN has got a pretty poor ROAS compared to Facebook. So maybe I actually want to only spend $150 on GDN, $450 on Facebook. And that's actually managed to bring my ROAS up a bit more as well. So, oh, I've written the wrong number there. So you can see that everything changes because these are all calculated numbers. They all change as you kind of change the proportions. So it's actually really useful in being able to decide how much money we want to spend in different places on the strategy. So I think I'm happy with that. I'm still spending my $1,200, but I'm kind of spending more on Facebook and search, less on GDN and LinkedIn. And that pretty much concludes our CPA calculation. I hope you've had a good time.